Welcome to our Swisslog Intralogistics Lounge. My name is Franziska Zimmermann and I'm very pleased to welcome you to a special conversation looking behind the grid at the partnership between Swisslog and AutoStore. Swisslog is one of the world's leading AutoStore integration partners, and we'll talk about what makes this partnership work and what customers can expect from it going forward. And joining me are the two CEOs behind this partnership. We have Hovland Vikse, CEO of AutoStore. So he has been with the company for more than 8 years, and for more than 3 years you're leading the company as CEO. So welcome and great to have you here, Mats.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. And of course we also have Jan Zobel, CEO of Swisslog, with a truly international background. He has lived and worked across Europe, China and the Middle East. So great to have you here as well.
Fantastic. Looking forward to the interview.
Thank you. And so let's get started with the first question. You've been working together for more than 15 years actually, and I think that's quite remarkable in this industry. And what originally brought Swisslog and AutoStore together, and what makes this a true partnership rather than just a supplier relationship? What would you say? Jan, maybe you want to start?
Yeah, I think I can also speak for Mats. We started as a real technology kind of partnership where we fulfilled a technology opportunity that we saw in the market through a kind of a supplier relationship between Swisslog and AutoStore. And now we are evolving much more to a business partnership, Mats, something where we really complement each other.
100%. And look, it's actually quite a remarkable story how we did get together though, because it did require a leap of faith. Because when we first came to market more than 20 years ago, we came to market with a completely new approach on how to solve fulfillment.
Yeah.
And as we were out, and I weren't at the business at the time, but we still have a lot of colleagues that were there, we were out searching for new partners because from the very start, we knew that we needed a partnership approach to truly take out the potential of our technology, because guess what? We're very often going to be part of a solution, and there's others that is excellent at doing the things that we don't need to do. But we were out searching for partners, and I think it's fair to say that most of the industry actually laughed at us when we pitched our solution. How do you get to the bottom? And there's no way this digging concept is going to work. But Swisslog were willing to take that leap of faith, and I think had that growth mindset to think that this new way of solving fulfillment can actually create more value for the customers and hence create the growth opportunity for Swisslog as well. And as you say, it started off more transactional because we had to provide those proof points out in the market and we had to get some presence out there. And that's just, I think it reflected the maturity of our companies at the time. But if you see as just how this has evolved, I think we can look at this as much deeper partnership as we sit there today, both on the technology side, but also on the business side and how we go and deliver value to customers together.
Yeah. From a customer perspective, today, they see us almost as one. And I think that is truly the situation. Sometimes it's even difficult for us because we also need to make sure that we show how we complement each other, what are the values that we both bring. Yeah. But from a customer perspective, it's one, and that really counts.
Okay, and that brings me to my next question actually, because I wanted to ask, what is the real added value of Swisslog and AutoStore partnership that neither company could deliver alone to your customers?
So look, you're bringing the best of two worlds together, right? On our side, we're able to deliver a technology leadership within the core of what we do. So our fulfillment engine and the way we're solving problems with the combination of hardware and software provides the leading fulfillment engine and core in this market. Yeah. But that doesn't work as a standalone thing, right? So from the Swisslog side, you're seeing this solution architecture skill set that is also leading in the market. And when you have that combination of solution architecture, software capabilities to solve the real operational challenges with the customers out there with the world's best fulfillment engine. And if you can have that work as one integrated systems, you talked about, right? Customers should view this as one. You can bring together these components and have a superior solution out there.
The way we see it is top-notch technology and top-notch integration. And that's what we bring to the table. We can complement with other technologies that you need to have an end-to-end solution for the client, but they are sure that the core of the system, which is AutoStore from a technology perspective, is leading, and next to that, through a leading integrator, and we can do also the software layer on top. We will come back to that later because I think that's a super important topic. But top-notch technology, top-notch integration.
Okay. And if you go a bit deeper into technology, the market is evolving fast, especially with AI, with software, with robotics. So how has that changed the way you actually work together, or has it changed the way you work together?
It should change the way we work together, and we are working on that. You see that more and more the market requires intelligence rather than just hardware and solutions and software. It really moves to intelligence, and that's a challenge and an opportunity for our partnership. How do we bring from both parties a complementing offer that allows the customers to go into intelligence, predictability, address the volatility that you see in the supply chains, and that's where we need to also evolve our partnership. Our tagline is ready for the next, and as a partnership we should also be ready for that next wave that we see in the market.
And you're right, the world is moving incredibly fast, and we need to make sure that we move even faster. So at AutoStore we like to say that we never stand still. So on our end, we're making sure that we're taking feedback from you as a partner, taking feedback from customers, but also looking at technology trends in the market to make sure that we can deliver what's next. And our view is that delivering maximum value for our customers, you need a combination of having a very strong physical core, which is the robots and the hardware. You need to make sure that you're able to leverage all the data that you're talking about to make sure that you're learning from your operations, making adjustments, being more predictive, as you say, but also making sure that you have that orchestration layer on top so that you no longer just optimize the physical infrastructure, but you're optimizing decision velocity. Because if you look at this from a customer's perspective, the whole role of supply chain is changing. If you go back just when I entered this industry, we were all thinking about how do we execute this next project? How do we think about this distribution center in isolation? But because supply chain is playing a much more important role now with everything that's happening out there in the world, operators out there also think more on an end-to-end basis, and we need to apply that same type of mentality. So as an example, last week actually we launched a new set of products. It was around how do we build this software platform that enables us to learn from every phase, from how you design and plan to how you operate and how you optimize this post value. And we've done that through a cube-verse software platform. But then on top of that, we're building what we call AutoStore Intelligence, which is a set of purpose-built AI models that we apply across that portfolio so that it's constantly optimized based on that exact customer's situation. So this whole mindset of having a strong physical core with the right smartness on top of it is what we call intelligent fulfillment.
And that's exactly where we need to bring the partnership to the next level. Because at the end of the day, you called it also decision velocity. It is about insights, it's about intelligence in the supply chain, in the system. And that means that both parties bring certain intelligence, and we have that software layer. And now for our partnership, it's super important to identify how we complement each other in that intelligence layer. AutoStore obviously for the core that AutoStore delivers, but then you have the end-to-end solution where the customers also need to take decisions based upon volatility in the supply chain, different e-commerce type of patterns that happen, labor scarcity is playing, and that's where the customers are now asking us, hey, come with a solution. So it's no longer on just delivering the project, it's the whole life cycle and the flexibility of that particular solution that we need to work and add intelligence to that.
Exactly. So what we've achieved since we first started this partnership, just in terms of what we're able to deliver to customers in throughput, complexity, etc., it's wildly different from what it was 15 years ago. But with the pace of innovation that we're seeing now and the tools that we have at our disposal, the next 15 years I think it's going to move even faster and make it even more relevant. So I like to say that we're always kind of still early in this relationship, even if we sit here today and celebrate 15 years.
And 400 installations.
Which actually brings me to my next questions, because you're already talking a lot about the future, but looking a bit further ahead, and I know it's always a bit of looking into crystal ball, but if we fast forward, let's say 10 or 15 years, where do you see this partnership heading?
Look, I always like to say, in 10 or 15 years, I have no clue.
That's honest, at least. Yeah.
Let's first talk about the quarter. Yeah.
No, but like, joking aside, I think it's something around this notion of thinking about our customers on a more end-to-end basis. It will no longer cut it by thinking at this about individual projects, but for our customers that we have together, they're investing in automation to make their overall business perform better. And that doesn't stop at project handover. So how do we make sure that we develop the next set of services, the next set of products that make sure that they're not only running these projects nicely in isolation, but as their situation changes, they're constantly optimized and they're constantly able to take advantage of the new technology that comes out there. And that's going to be a combination of, yes, we're going to continue to develop the best hardware out there, but how do we provide that next set of intelligence so that their operations constantly learn, constantly optimize ourselves. And then who knows, 10, 15 years, huh?
Yeah. I would be really satisfied if we would knew what we were going to do over the next 3 years. But okay, I think in any case, adding to what Mats was saying, I foresee much more closeness as a partnership to the client in the execution and the addressing of the needs of that client. So far, the partnership has been really doing well around technology and integration of, let's say, complex solutions. But in order to really address the need of the client and to excite the client, we need to be much closer to what is the client actually expecting and doing with that installation. Where are their problem areas? Today, the client says, I've bought a project, you've installed the project, that's good, but that's what I can expect. Where you can really excite me is if you optimize my performance, if you make an impact on my business. So rather than just saying, okay, we have the best technology, hardware, installation, etc., I would be regarded in the partnership as really making an impact on the customer's business. And that's where I would like to take the partnership, really impacting the partner's business, making really a difference for them.
I think that's very, very well said. And we've talked about this before. I think today the customers should feel that 1 + 1 = 3. Maybe in 10 years it's 4.
Yeah, let's. I like it.
And since we are already looking that far ahead, let me ask you a slightly different question. Do you think a CEO of a company like yours could one day completely be replaced by an AI agent? So will you still be there in 10 or 15 years?
I would be the last one to stay, because then we have a lot of other AI agents first in the organization, and then I run the company. Imagine. But definitely, I think there is always the emotional aspect that you need to bring, the motivational aspect, the alignment. I mean, if we want a partnership like this to work, that it also needs to be a kind of an emotional alignment, that we say, hey, we like each other and we want to work with each other. And that cannot be replaced by AI, but definitely life will be completely different from today, actually. Yeah.
And Mats, will you still be there?
Look, I think the right mentality to have around this: how can we use only AI agents, but those tools that are available to us now and AI to amplify the value that we can bring, because I'm sure that the next generation of CEOs will be far better than ourselves, right?
I'm pretty sure.
But I'm sure that with those tools we can amplify the value that we have and make sure that we can focus where there's true value add to be had on top, and that's not going to be on process related steps or making the right isolated decisions, right?
Yeah. So let's hope you're both staying.
Yeah, we will. Maybe not for 10 years, but at least for the foreseeable future, Franziska.
Okay, and maybe to close on that note, what would be your number one advice to CEOs building long-term partnerships, to other CEOs, actually?
Look, we talked about how it's incredibly difficult to look 10 years into the role, but I do think there is something around building partnerships where you have a perspective that speaks to a decade and not a quarter, right? Because if you're going to build a real partnership, there needs to be an element of transparency, and that transparency needs to over time create trust. And if you can establish those things, which isn't done in a month or a quarter, I think you have the foundation to build the right partnership. But if you look at it, I think the best partnership is not generated because there is a mutual dependency, but because there's a shared ambition. And we know what success looks like.
Fully aligned with that. I think that the advice that I would give to a CEO, to two CEOs that are building a partnership, is to really spend time on the strategic alignment. Because if you are strategically aligned and you can speak with one voice to both companies and say, guys, this is what we want to achieve, then you also get the clarity in your companies to execute, and then you also speak with one voice to your customer set. So strategic alignment for me is one. Understanding each other's value proposition. I think that is something that we are now redeveloping again. What is going to be our joint value proposition for the market to come? So if you have that clarity on the strategy, the alignment on where you want to go, and you know what you both bring, not at the cost of each other, but both better and complementing each other, then you at least have a good start for the partnership. The mantra that I always have is you have to manage a quarter and build a business. So you also need some results. So to all of us out here, we need some results as well. I mean, that also brings some partnership.
Okay, thank you so much for these insights, Mats. Jan, it was a real pleasure talking to you, and all the best for your partnerships. And if you like to learn more about what this successful partnership means for customers today, feel free to explore Swisslog's AutoStore integrator page.